Good morning.
Good morning, Peggy.
New Thought authors Jack and Cornelia Addington, in Your Needs Met, page 143, wrote, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. There is no scrimping in the fullness thereof. In the infinite mind, there is enough to spare, plenty of ideas, plenty of customers, plenty of symbol known to us as money. The only requirement that is that we receive it first in consciousness. Nothing is withheld when we look to consciousness for our supply. God accomplishes through us. Our success is God's success. God does not know failure. How then can we?" Please join me in claiming the consciousness of success by speaking this affirmation. God is lavish, unfailing abundance, the rich, omnipresent substance of the universe. This all-providing source of infinite prosperity is individualized as me. As I create from this awareness, I astound myself by turning possibility into actuality over and over again.
Beautiful. Thank you, Peggy. And thank you, Liz, for the beautiful music. And thank you, Dean, for being on top of the visuals. I mean, let's give him a round of applause. So as we just shared with each other, we are filled with everything that we need for absolute success. There is nothing missing. We are whole, perfect, and complete. And the essence, the power, the wisdom, the creativity of the divine flows through us infinitely. It is the gift of life to us. And we can make a difference. So we are truly here to astound ourselves. And last week, Reverend Kathleen invited us to acknowledge the successes that we have had in our lives. And I don't know how many people were able to do that or if you found it a difficult task. But in truth, we are a success to life even by just being here. And I think she brought that out in awareness to us at that time. We are here to make a difference. And I have to share with you, I am astounded all the time. I am astounded when I look at this in this room and I see people that I know and have experienced giving deep love, that self-love that is overflowing in service to others. That's astounding, and yet it's still just the very nature of who we are. So in these beautiful teachings that we have in New Thought, Ancient Wisdom, Science of Mind, from our founder, Ernest Holmes, we have a rich supply of quotes available to us. And one of the most powerful is, there is a power for good in the universe and we can use it. But what I want to do right now is individualize that, because we experience life as an individual, even though in consciousness and in awareness and by choice, we claim that this is a unified field and we are all one. But because we are individualized, bringing our gifts out into this world, we experience life individually as well. So let's shift that beautiful quote and share with each other and feel it and take it in, because this is how we begin to astound ourselves. I am a center of power for good in the universe, and I use it. So let's say that together. I am a center of power for good in the universe, and I use it. Now, I hope that my hope is that we all recognize more and more, and after this morning's talk, begin to really pay attention to the many ways that we are that center for good in this universe. And I wanted to share an experience that I had on Mother's Day, which was a beautiful day. I celebrated it with my family. My children made a lovely luncheon after services, and but before we sat down to lunch, I got a telephone call from my mother, who I hadn't had a chance to call yet up to that point on Mother's Day. And she said, I hadn't heard from you yet, but I had to call because it's so important for me to share with you how grateful I am for the beautiful family that I have and the deep love that I feel from you and the deep love that I feel for you. And I needed to tell you that right now. And my mother is 94 years old. She lives in New Bern, North Carolina. She lives in the same house that she lived in for the last 20 years. My brother lives with her, but that day he was under the weather, and so he was in bed. So my mother was experiencing Mother's Day alone. You know, she wasn't alone. We know we're never alone. But she was experiencing that solidarity there within herself. But what did she do? She didn't behave like a person in loneliness. She embodied the truth of self-love, and she was in service to the people that she loves by sharing that love with them. She was living a life of spiritual practice. And she would never say that. She wouldn't even recognize that that's exactly what she was doing. But because of steeping myself in these principles, immediately I recognized it. And let me tell you, I was astounded. It was a very powerful message to me, and I'm so grateful for that model to remind me over and over again what success looks like. Because even though my mother does not have a lot of letters after her name, and doesn't have a long CV, the way that she is in the world with her family and with her friends is the most profound success we really can share, because what she brings is love and joy and harmony.
Candace, may I add something?
Sure.
I met Candace when I was doing yoga with you.
Uh-huh.
She is the most amazing woman. You would never guess she's in her 90s or even in her 80s.
Right.
She is vibrant. She is delightful.
Right.
She just is
Right.
there
Right.
expressing.
Thank you, Nancy. And truly, what is that? It's a cultivation of truth principles. Knowing love, seeing love, being love, feeling love, and sharing love. And again, that is what we come here together for. To express and experience self-love and give it in service to others. Okay, so there's so many ways that we get messages in life, and nature is one of our best teachers. And one of my favorite people that I read is Mike Dooley. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with Mike Dooley. He writes the Tut notices, messages from the universe. Anyway, he paraphrased a beautiful quote from the ancient yogic and Buddhist tradition about nature. And it goes like this. It's about the flowers and the bees. The flower does not seek the bee. The flower opens and the bee comes. Beautiful picture, isn't it? So what do we mean by that? What does that mean to me? I mean, we can all interpret things in different ways, but to me, I recognize that the flower within it has a completion of life, a perfection, a perfect success of life innately in the seed from which it comes. By nature, it breaks open in the soil. By nature, it roots, it spreads its roots out wide to accept the good, the nutrients that are available to it. When the shell breaks, the call of the sunshine, that energy draws it up very straight and strong and fills it with all it needs from below and from above, just like us here on earth, to open into a magnificent glory of perfection that it was designed to be. And there it stands. And just in the opening to what it is, the fullness, the richness of what it is, the bee is attracted. And the bee comes and receives the gift of the flower, the nectar, the sweetness, and at the same time gathers all of the pollen that the flower needs to propagate itself, and then flies back, pollinates all the other flowers, and then takes the nectar back to its hive to be in service to others. It's the demonstration of the cycle of life, the demonstration of the unity of life and the wholeness of life. The flower does not seek the bee. The flower is what it is. It opens and the bee comes. And to me, this tells me that as we are and as we exhibit and as we express all of those beautiful qualities that are innate within us, and we blossom into who we truly are without resistance, all that we need and all the ways in which we can be of service to the world arise and come to us. It is not hard, but we sometimes make it hard. And how do we make it hard? We create limitations for ourselves. Don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. So again, just briefly back to my mother. Her limitation was that she was alone on a day of celebration. She challenged that limit by reaching out. A challenge is a thought asking for another unlimited thought. We say we're unlimited beings because we have access to the unlimited intelligence of the universe. And that is the truth. And the good news is that the challenges are truly opportunities and invitations to break free from the bondage of false belief. But what so often happens is that we experience difficulties in life and we suppress them or we repress them, and they become an energetic in our subconscious that keeps informing us of the danger, the insecurity, the anxiety, the fear that that particular circumstance created within us for that moment, and yet it is no longer happening. That because we have attached to it, it's holding a power over us, and we have surrendered the reality of the infinite power that is our birthright and available to us at all times to this one singular thought. And it plays out over and over in our lives. And I love the story about the pothole. I don't know how many of you have heard it. It's very simple. A man is walking down the street and he's not paying any attention to life or where he's going, and there's a pothole in the middle of the street and he trips over the pothole, and then he gets up and he looks and says, oh my gosh, somebody ought to fix that. That's going to hurt somebody. And he goes on his way, and then the next day he's walking down the same street and he's not paying attention, and the pothole is still there, and he steps into the pothole and then he twists his ankle. And then he has bigger problems. He's getting more limited because now he has to bind his ankle and he can't run and he can't ride his bike and things that he likes to do. But when he heals, he walks back down the same street and the pothole is still there. And he steps right in the pothole, and this time he falls to the ground and he breaks his leg. And now he's laid up for a couple of months. Well, the pothole is that limitation that we have not addressed. And what could we do instead of ignoring the pothole? We could fill the pothole in, we could walk around the pothole, or we could take a different route. And this all arises from our thoughts. But in ignoring the pothole, the man is self-destructive. So this is our consciousness. Our thoughts can be self-destructive, as we all know. I'm sure we've all felt lots of bouts of anger, frustration, fear, and however that shows up, we feel the consequences of that in the body, right? Right. So this brings us to the first principle. There's only two principles that we're covering today to complete this month's talk on success principles. And the first principle is face what is not working. This is what happens when we don't address the potholes. Sometimes they get so big, and then we find it really hard to overcome them, come back into the truth of who we are from them. So we don't really want to go there, right? It's a funny picture, though. All right, so this week I've had the pleasure of noticing, and this is what I'm talking about being aware. There was an interview on the radio that I listened to with Lou Alcindor. Everybody know who Lou Alcindor is? He was Kareem, exactly. But first he was Lou Alcindor. And he was a very, he still is, he's still with us, and very famous basketball player who started out his career at UCLA with a coach named John Madden, very famous coach, a very powerful and very influential man. So what does this have to do? Here he is receiving the President's Medal of Freedom Award, which is awarded by each president, and very few people, obviously, would be honored in such a way. So, looking at him here, it doesn't look like maybe he had too many challenges, that life might have been simple for him, and he rode straight to the top. But in fact, when he was playing basketball at UCLA in California, in Los Angeles, in the 60s, this was the time of the Civil Rights Movement. And there was a lot of turmoil. Many of us, experienced that time. And actually, it's not too different from what we're experiencing today. So we have not resolved this issue. But he and many of the young African American men that were playing ball together and that were friends together were very angry, and understandably so. And the way I have interpreted it for this talk, and I do believe that it is true, is that they were given an identity that was not theirs by society. And they were playing ball and they were revered as basketball players, but they weren't seen as the whole truth of who they are, divine beings, emanations of the Most High. And so during this time, many of them turned to the Muslim faith. There was something that attracted them. And Lou Alcindor became very close with his coach, John Madden. And John Madden, as I said, was a very powerful man, and he was very principled. He was a deeply spiritual and deeply principled man, and he trained his team like his children. And he gave them guidance of how to be in the world, not just how to be in basketball, but knew that if you are being the qualities of wisdom, power, integrity, self-respect, mutual respect, loving kindness, and he said love is the primary quality to carry us forward into a successful life. This was the basketball coach. Well, when these young men were turning to Islam, he said, so what is all this about? I mean, why are you leaving your old traditions behind? And when they explained to him the qualities that they were receiving, that they were aligning with, that they were finding and knowing true within themselves through this turning to a faith way of being, that they knew and felt stronger and whole, and they knew who they were. And he said, oh, okay, I get that totally. And then later the story came out, and that after that is when Lou Alcindor became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So the story came out, and he was sharing this, that he heard that Coach Madden, who took his earlier UCLA teams to, this is before his time, to great success in the beginning of his career as a coach. And he was invited to have his team play in the national competition at that time, which I think was the precursor to March Madness that we know now. And he said, great, I'd love to bring the team. And they said, well, there's one caveat. You cannot bring your black players. And he said, well, we are a team. We've played together, and we will continue to play together. He said, so thank you, but no thank you. Now, this was a huge honor for him and for the team and for the school, but he stood in his principle. He knew who he was, and he knew what truth was and what love was, what it is. And so it was very comfortable for him to say no problem. So he didn't play. He didn't make a big issue out of it. He didn't grandstand it. He didn't report it. It didn't go in the papers. But then the next year, he had an even more successful season, and he was invited again. And he said, great, I'd love to play. And they said, well, again, remember, there is this one caveat. And he said, thank you and no thank you. Well, 2 days later, they called him and said, we've decided to change our minds. And this is the power of standing in truth. This is the power of knowing who you are. This is the power of being the flower opening and the bee coming to receive the gifts that you have to share. It's a powerful story, isn't it? I am just so grateful. And then so I'm not a big organized sports fan. I like basketball. I like to watch it, but I don't really understand it all. But I am a powerful appreciator of this man who followed his heart, followed his truth, followed his dream. And not only did he play, I mean, he's one of the old, I think he's rated number 2 under Michael Jordan, maybe. But not only did he play hard, but he said, let me see, I wrote down this. This was in an interview. He said that his racial and religious identity, not his athleticism, played the most prominent role in his life. And he's just written a book about the 50-year friendship that he has shared with John Madden. So the man was a coach. The man has written many books, and he is an inspirational speaker, and he stands for truth principles. So this is what I appreciate. I still appreciate that he is a basketball star. I mean, those things are amazing, the things that they do. So the first principle is facing not what is not working. And so often what happens is we can convince ourselves by this quality called denial that it's not that bad, or is that right? Is that wrong? Gee, I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. And so just like the pothole, the man with the pothole, we ignore those things that are making us uncomfortable in our lives and not allowing us to live the fullness of who we are. So I wanted to point out to you that on your seat, perhaps, there is something that we'll just cover in reading, but I'm not going to invite you to do it right this minute, but take it home with you and contemplate. So there's probably some area of your life, and my life as well, where I'm ignoring a pothole. And I'm going to read this quote from Dr. Arthur Chang, who wrote in the Science of Mind magazine some time ago. And he said, "Problems are the noise opportunity makes as it knocks at our door." Problems are the noise opportunity makes as it knocks at our door. That's exactly what it feels like. Our problems provide the creative tension necessary to make us go deeper within and find the unsuspecting spring of spirit just when it may appear that we don't have enough to get the job done. And this is going back to the quote that we read, this is an abundant universe, this is an abundant supply, and there is no limit to the divine. It is always giving freely and fully to itself as us. So the answers are already here, and the truth is we know them within. But we have to surrender that false belief and be willing to walk through the noise, which is the problem, to get to the solution, which again is freedom. Freedom to be who we are. So let's just look quickly at the inventory and take this home with you, and I invite you to really contemplate it. In the area of health, how is your physical, mental, and emotional well-being? Is there anything that needs attention? In the area of finances, how is the flow of money and material good through your life? Do you have leaks that could be patched up? I know immediately I have leaks in mine. And I've talked about it a lot, and I haven't cleaned them up yet. So I'm challenging myself. Relationships. Take a look at the quality of interaction with others, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your mates, your coworkers. Is there anything that needs to be addressed? Is there any forgiveness? Is there a conversation that is wanting to take place for freedom, peace, and harmony and love? Career and creative self-expression. How are you expressing your special gifts and talents, whether for income or not? Are you living on purpose? We all arrive with a purpose. We all arrive with a set of gifts and talents that we cultivate. And if we haven't cultivated them, this is a call to cultivate them. Those passions, those desires that arise, those ideas that spring forth unannounced and that make your heart leap and race. And if you're not answering that call, you're not answering your life. And I have experienced that. And many years ago, when I didn't answer that call, I paid a very heavy price for it. And now I am answering the call. Sometimes it gets complicated. I make it that way. But it really is very simple. Spiritual and personal growth. How is your relationship with yourself and the God of your understanding? Where are you in this critically important dimension of your life? Really good questions. They are tools to help us wake up to what is not working in our lives. And I'm just going to invite you that as a community, you are not alone, that we have ministers, we have practitioners that are here available as objective listeners who are trained to support you in making that shift of coming out of the closet, of turning the light on and seeing the path. We have coaches as well, seeing the path forward and helping you understand or help you choose the steps to take forward to make that change in your own life. Okay, so we faced what's not working. And so now we come to principle number 63, and the last principle that we're going to cover, which is start now. Start now. Just do it. So many of us are procrastinators. And I can't tell you how many people I have heard say, I'm too old, I can't do that now. Or, I've got to take care of this. This is my passion, but I'm going to have to put it on hold. And, but we'll be saying that next year, and we'll be saying that next year, and we'll be saying that next year, and we'll never be living our lives. We are here to be the flower and share our beauty, share our grace, and our gifts with others. That is being in service. And not only that, it's service to ourselves, because then we know that fulfillment, that joy of being fully alive. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Arthur Ashe, a famous tennis player. Start where you are. We don't have to have extra funds. We don't have to have a new bicycle. We don't have to have a boat, whatever it is. We don't have to have 50 friends. We have what we need inside us. Dean, the next slide. Use your creativity. I have a piece of this, I have a piece of that, I can put them together and it solves my problem. I'm having fun and I'm moving onward.
That's right.
I saw that online. I went, oh, that's just too good. Having fun doing it. That's what we're here for. We're not for hard work. It takes hard. We could call it hard work, but we could also call it hard play. Right? If we're having fun doing what we're doing, if we're following our heart's desires, it becomes intensive play, not hard work. So, there's another beautiful quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, which says, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it now. Begin it. Begin it. Because boldness, that's the sacred yes. Boldness has genius, power, magic, and energy. And energy is my word, in it. So, my friends, we come to the end right where we began. There is a power for good in the universe, and we can use it. So let's just go within for prayer. Taking a deep breath in. Feeling the presence of the divine God, spirit, wholeness, oneness, right in the heart center. Informing the mind the truth of universal love, intelligence, wisdom, divine order, infinite potential and possibility, abundant supply, abundant supply. Everything that could possibly be necessary for success is already present right here and right now within each one of us. So I know that as we move out from here, we take this good that we are. We wake up to the truth. We acknowledge the truth. We astound ourselves with these beautiful qualities as we embody them, as we identify them, as we recognize them, as we celebrate them, and we use them for good in service, not only to ourselves, but to life itself. And in so doing, we fulfill that truth of good as the universal principle. And so I release this word into the universal law of mind in full faith and trust that it is done, pure joy of its manifestation. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Thank you. So Liz, and so it is. Liz is up.
Thank you so much for entrusting me with the music today. And thank you to my husband for doing the sound. And thank you to this mic for cooperating. This is a song I wrote a while ago called I Am One with the Great I Am. The inspiration for it was a class that I had taken in Moorestown 100 years ago. And one of the assignments was to express what you had learned in the class, of course, and to also express your oneness with God. A gentleman named Dave Schbach, who I think has since become a minister, held up a sign that said, this proves that you have to let go of your notions about the English language if you start following spiritual principles of New Thought. And the sign said, I am one with the great I am. And that's the last thing I heard, because I was furiously writing the song as poor Dave was trying to speak and be heard up there. So thank you to Dave for the inspiration. My mind is filled with the light of truth. I am one with the great I am. God in me sees the God in you. I am one with the great I am. All that I dream of, all that I wish for is God expressing His me. I release my word out into the law where it is so, and I let it be. Hey, hey, my mind is filled with the light of truth. I am one with the great I am. God in me sees the God in you. I am one with the great I am. I never needed a stamp of approval to know what road is the right one for me. I know where truth is. I know where love lies. It's floating on the waters of prosperity. My mind is filled with the light of truth. I'm one with the great I am. God in me sees the God in you. I am one with the great I am. I never needed a stamp of approval to know what road is the right one for me. I know where truth is. I know where love lies. It's floating on the waters of prosperity. My mind is filled with the light of truth. I am one with the great I am. God in me sees the God in you. I am one with the great I am. My mind is filled with the light of truth. I am one with the great I am. God in me sees the God in you. I am one with the great I am. I am.
Beautiful. Thank you, Liz. Perfect song.